From 1951 to 1976. So when the Grand Ole Opry was over at midnight at the Ryman Auditorium, WSM would sign off at the Ryman and sign on in here live.
That's incredible.
For the Ernest Tubb Midnight Jamboree. And this is Ernest Tubb, and he was the first Texan to come join the Grand Ole Opry, and he's the 6th person in the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Impressive.
And so this is him with his most famous set of troubadours. This was with bus number 4 that he drove in the 1960s. And drummer Jack Green goes on to become CMA Male Vocalist of the Year in 1967. Album of the Year, Connie Smith has the Song of the Year for the CMA in 1974. And these guys were on the road between 225 and 250 nights a year. Here's a picture of Hank Williams playing here in 1951.
Oh,
and then
wow.
here is the list of the who's who that's played in here. And that list is up until about 8 years ago. Since that list has been made, Casey Musgraves has played here, Eric Church, Brothers Osborne, Aubrey Sellers, Brandy Clark, Charlie Worsham. And it was free to see all of them. All of these that I just mentioned, and all of these. You just had to get in here. Picture here of the night that Alan Jackson played here in November of ~95. And it was just like that when Eric Church played in here in 2016, except that there were 5 policemen standing in front of the door keeping thousands more out that were trying to get in. 3 of Loretta Lynn's gowns. The red one is from a Christmas album. And this one is from her album that came out 2.5 years ago in September of 2018, and there's the album cover. Loretta was 86 years old when that came out. But we're partial to this gown here because it's the gown she's wearing in the 4th and last album that she made with Ernest Tubb. That was in 1972. This was their 3rd album. That was in 1969. And this was their first album. It's a blow-up of the first album. That's from 1965, and that's the year that Ernest Tubb went in the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And in that movie, Coal Miner's Daughter, Sissy Spacek won the Academy Award for her portrayal of Loretta Lynn, and that's the scene that's filmed in here. You can see it, except that the stage was up here farther, about where those, where that stand is right there with the souvenirs on it. That's where the stage was at that time. This stage has only been here for 3 years.
Okay.
About 3.5 years ago, Loretta asked if she could have some space back here, and who says no to Loretta? So we tore out the stage that had been there since 1992, and there was a wall, doorway, 2 offices back here. And we tore all that out so Loretta could have some space. When this all opened back here in August, and then the album came out in September, Jenna Bush came down from the Today Show and interviewed Loretta right here. This was in September of 2018. And as I said, Ernest Tubb was the first Texan to come join the Grand Ole Opry, 6th person in the Hall of Fame. Martin Guitar made a D35 commemorative model of Ernest Tubb, and there's the Ernest Tubb signature right down between the frets there. And they only made 90 of them. And kind of a neat thing that he had done for everybody, all the guys that played in his band, he had a belt buckle made for each one of them. It has their name on it, when they started, when they finished, and had one made for them, and then made one that he kept for himself. He was born in Crisp, Texas, which is a little town just south of Dallas. In fact, it's no longer even a town. The post office pulled out, but that's where he was born February 9th, 1914. Came to the Grand Ole Opry as a member the week of his 29th birthday. First Texan to join the Opry. Elvis played here October 2nd, 1954.
Wow.
The same night that he played at the Opry. And it was not well received at the Opry. It was partly Elvis's fault. The song selection that he chose. The father of bluegrass is Bill Monroe. Bill Monroe wrote a song in the late 40s called Blue Moon of Kentucky.
I love that song.
Well, when he wrote it, it was a waltz time. Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gone, done true. Well, when Elvis recorded it at Sun Records 3 months before he did it to the Opry, he put it in 4/4 time, and I say, blue moon of Kentucky, keep on a shining. And all these years they've been hearing Bill Monroe do it as a waltz. They weren't ready for that at the Opry. And so, if he'd have picked a different song, it might not have gone so bad. Patsy Cline comes to town, and this is the very first place that Patsy Cline played live in Nashville. And of course, Patsy was from Winchester, Virginia. She recorded her basically the same version that Elvis did in 4/4 time. And after getting checks from Elvis Presley's and getting checks from Patsy Cline's version, Bill Monroe said, you guys can cut any of my songs you want to.
Oh,
Ernest Tubb and Johnny, 56. And historically becomes a significant picture some years later. 9 years after this photo is taken, Ernest Tubb goes in the Hall of Fame at the age of 51 years old. And he becomes the youngest living person in the Hall of Fame. 15 years after Ernest Tubb goes in the Hall of Fame, Johnny Cash goes in the Hall of Fame at the age of 48. And 40 years later, that's still the youngest living person in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow. I did not know
Now,
that.
Reba would want you to think differently.
Wow. And he's wearing white.
Yeah. Well, he didn't become the man in black till about 12 years after that. He finally figured out it was easier to keep black clean on the road than it was white. Another picture over here from about the same time of Johnny playing on the Louisiana Hayride, which was one of the big radio shows in America. And the Louisiana Hayride was big. In fact, 2 weeks after Elvis played in here, he played the Louisiana Hayride. He was here October 2nd. He plays his first time at the Louisiana Hayride on the 16th of October. And he played 55 times at the Louisiana Hayride in the rest of 54 and 55.
Wow.
So the big radio shows at that time was the Wheeling Jamboree from Wheeling, West Virginia, the WLS National Barn Dance out of Chicago, and there would not be a Grand Ole Opry here if it hadn't been for the WLS Barn Dance in Chicago. It was the first big radio show. People come in from Chicago and I say, you mean the former home of country music? And they go, huh? I go, yeah. WLS Barn Dance was big. Gene Autry, the famous singing cowboy, was on the WLS Barn Dance for 11 years before he went to Hollywood and started making movies. And then the Louisiana Hayride in Shreveport, Louisiana, and the Big D Jamboree in Dallas. And then out on the West Coast into the 50s was the Town Hall Party on Saturday night, which was their version of the opera. And they ended up with about 5 or 6 people that are in the Country Music Hall of Fame that were out there in California, in Los Angeles on the Town Hall Party. As I said, besides Hank Williams, about 3/4 of those people over there are in the Country Music Hall of Fame. And if there are pictures in here and they're from the era from 1950 to 1975, that means they played in here. So this was the after party. When the Opry was over at midnight, this was free to come to and live on the radio.
used to have one. Don't you remember that?
That's funny.
Is there songs that I would know about from her? So cool.
Gracie, what's going on down here?
Thank you, Victor and the Ernest Tubb Record Shop for making this video possible and sharing such incredible music history. Ernest Tubb purchased the 1964 Silver Eagle in 1970, which he named the Green Hornet. Mr. Tubb and the Texas Troubadours toured all 48 continental United States, as well as Canada from 1970 to 1979. Mr. Tubb retired the bus in 1970 and donated the bus to the Ernest Tubb Record Shop for fans to enjoy. Since 1995, the Green Hornet has been restored and placed on permanent display. Keeping with tradition, admission is free.
On November 13, 1982, Ernest Tubb gave his last public performance. The curtain fell for Ernest Tubb on September 6, 1984 after suffering from emphysema the last 17 years of his life, succumbing to the disease at the age of 70. The first Texan to join the Opry from 1943 to 1984. A founding member of the CMA Board of Directors in 1958. Elected it to the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1965. Elected in the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1970. Ernest Tubb is a country music legend. His legacy lives on through his music, all throughout Nashville, Tennessee, down on 417 Broadway, the Grand Ole Opry and the Mindnite Jamboree, still broadcasting at the Texas Troubadour Theater, as well as countless fans around the world and those who knew him.